into the map Romanticide. In the bottom right is the red Terran for Team Alpha X. He is Vindicta.
And over in the top left, playing for Team X it is MaSa. For some reason, that music reminded me of Pirates of the Caribbean. And I don't know if that's just because I'm super tired right now. But yeah, it was definitely a fun one.
You know, people are always trying to describe the process of getting old, and they're like, you're going to hit 30 and you're just going to, like, all your bones are going to break. And it's like, all right, calm down. I think one thing that is not accurately stated about getting older is that I can stay up till 4 a.m., right? Just like I used to. But I'm going to be so loopy at about, like, 1 a.m. You know what I mean? Whereas before, I think I at least was under the illusion that I was clear-headed at 4 in the morning when I was 23. Anyways.
Yes.
Maybe you're just a bit loopy.
Yes, I can totally get behind this. What is... Oh, so he was searching for a proxy? I got to commend Vindicta for this. Like, knowing he's against MaSa, who can be a little bit cheeky, a little bit gimmicky, searching for a proxy like this is pretty smart, actually. I always go for the cross-map scout, personally, just to make sure that I can confirm exactly what's going on. But this is just to kind of cut a little bit of a corner and just trying to make sure that you're not going to die, basically.
Which, you know, he didn't actually scout the proxy or axe. That's unfortunate. Some people do put it on the edge of those minerals. But it is actually going to be a 2-axe for MaSa, just not entirely in proxy. Vindicta just going for cutting that corner because he is not going for his own economic build. He is going for something that, you know, even if they are 2-axing you, you should have a solid chance of holding against. So he didn't feel the need, I guess, to fully commit. That can backfire. You know, if you're not mentally prepared to deal with a Reaper fight super early on, you lose your first Reaper, yeah, you could definitely die. It's not supposed to be what happens, though.
It can definitely be problematic. Like, MaSa's build is by no means an all-in or anything like that, though. Like, it's he's going to get his expo up a little bit faster than Vindicta. Getting the first few shots off on this Reaper, though, is a big deal, and it's actually going for a bunker on the low ground. This is something that we've seen from Maru quite a bit with the Reapers and what have you. Has to be careful here, though, because that Hellion will pop out very soon and does manage to maybe get away with these Reapers. This is a bit dicey here by MaSa.
Yep, he's going to trade out 1-to-1 Reaper. Of course, he has a bit more production, but half of his production is coming from across the map. The bunker will not finish, and Vindicta gets the command center, I mean, as fast as possible. It wouldn't have been really worth to start it on the high ground with how close he was to cleaning that up. So it is later than MaSa, but the one thing that Vindicta has is technology. His starport's starting, and MaSa's factory is just starting.
That is true. That is definitely true. I'm very curious about what MaSa's going to go behind this, because did you end up watching Maru versus Special?
I did not, know.
Okay,
well, I heard about it, so.
So Maru opened up this exact build multiple times, the one that MaSa's going for, except he followed it up with a lot of mech, which was super weird, super cool. Like, what's funny about this barracks is if he goes and steals that tech lab, that'd be super annoying, but he's too slow.
Darn, yeah.
It'd be really cool.
It's a really good thing to bring up, actually, to Muslim, not just because it could happen. It might not be here, but it could happen. But because specifically MaSa is the type of guy who comes back and he's like, oh, I don't know this map. Let's veto it. Oh, I don't know what's good. Tell me what's good. And then he also just like goes and watches a VOD of Korean StarCraft and is like, oh, I'm going to do that. That's literally what he does. He'll go into DreamHack Montreal not having a build in mind, watch someone Innovation, 2-port Banshee, and then use it 12 hours later. And you're like, well, you didn't practice it. And he's like, it's going to work fine. So I think it's actually really, really pertinent to bring up, even if MaSa doesn't end up doing it. We do have 3 CCs for both players, but Vindicta actually going to try and trip things up a little bit by going for a Banshee build, or at least faking it.
Okay, so was he actually faking it, or was it that he saw that his opponent was making cyclones and stuff and was kind of prepared for it? In fact, I'm going to have a quick look at what Vindicta actually saw. He didn't see the 3rd CC. That's a big deal.
Yeah. The timing is also really awkward, because, I'm not even sure the 2 extra barracks would have started instead of the 3rd CC for him to scout, Like, if he was really looking that deep into the seconds, but Yeah, that could be a misscout for sure. As far as the cancel or not, yeah, I mean, the Raven was already started. So it would be, I'd say it'd be one of the weirder things to see a Raven into double Banshee.
Oh,
but,
for sure, yeah.
yeah. So it is just into the Ravens. And bio for MaSa, I expect the same from Vindicta, but you know, mech is, it's a bit unheard of as far as I feel like European TVT goes. Yeah, Korean and North America, actually might see a mech game here.
Also, you know what's kind of cool is in that series, I don't want to spoil too much, but I don't know whether Maru knew that Special plays a lot of mech, but very often I find mech hard to deal with, but it's much easier to deal with when I'm the mech player as well. So, and also, when you have a player that's as good as Maru, kind of showcasing, hey, I'm playing mech in TVT, or I'm playing mech against Zerg, that just inspires me so damn hard that I'm going to try it out regardless, just because when the best player in the world is doing something, you know, you got to give it a go.
Yeah, exactly. And Vindicta is actually the one going for mech. He had gotten 4 gases that I only just realized super quickly. And of course, it was more and more obvious as he just didn't have stim on the way. He didn't have upgrades on the way. So finally, we see those factories for the confirmation. Third CC floats down. There you have it. Bio versus mech. I could have made that prediction a lot more confidently if I'd caught the refinery first, but still kind of made it.
Yeah, for sure. And now, MaSa, does he know what he's up against? Like, this is going to be a big question of, like, kind of guessing, when does MaSa figure out? What is he going to do when he does figure it out? Because mech requires very different thought process. Like, you can't just... You can break it down, but you have to make that choice very, very early on. And if you do kind of go the long game with it, well, getting air control and playing that kind of way requires very different infrastructure setup.
It's an entirely different pacing, absolutely. If you're, you know, building 4 extra reactors, so you're building just nothing but Marines, you're staying, you know, safe on your 3 base, and then you realize that it's mech, it just puts you in such an awkward position. So many Terran players are already skipping that more of a mid-game appeal anyways, like they're trying to go straight to the Vikings a lot of the time. But to be kind of forced into that situation is you realize too late. It's always uncomfortable. And MaSa is now going to realize, I think, with the... I mean, actually, it could still be a bit questionable.
Yeah, if I saw that, I'd still be like, yeah, this is a normal game. I'm playing against Bio, right? But it is weird. And he does have the Viking lead, definitely. But that Raven count is pretty scary to go up against, actually.
3 Ravens to 1. I mean... They can take out a couple of those Vikings just with the interference matrix. I think now, the scan there, seeing all those tanks and not a whole lot of Marines, that just confirmed it. Because I think he also just barely missed seeing the barracks floating. So that would mean... he's already building the reactors. So he might just swap the reactors off the barracks and actually get 1 or 2 more tech labs. And then... Yeah, now's the time to really think things through. Like, you're not going to be able to break this guy. That seems pretty evident. There's too many tanks already. And Romanicide's great defensively. But if you can contain them, maybe you can do the, the Zerg thing almost. You know, out-expand, hopefully out-upgrade. That's what you want to have happen. And then outpace them to the late game. Is usually how this thing goes.
I'm still not, like, entirely convinced that MaSa knows what he's up against here. Because, yeah, he's picked up so many little scouting Marines. And seeing the Viking count, seeing the tank count, like, MaSa's made a good 5-6 tanks already as well. It's definitely a roughie.
Yeah, you know, I would have thought that just the amount of tanks was like a little suspicious. If I looked back at my own tank count, right, I'd be like, hold on, like, why does he have so many extra? But maybe just 2 extra really isn't that obvious. And also the lack of Marines. Well, sometimes it takes people to build up to a lot of Marines because they stay on, you know, Raven production for so long. I think finally, with this NAS scan, we have a Marauder finally being built. And then I'm waiting for the real confirmation of him changing over to Tech Labs. We still haven't had it.
Yeah, and like, okay. Now I think he knows for sure with the Marauder. I think that's the real kind of like, okay, he must know now. I think also, when you see your opponent throw up like that sensor tower that you just took down at the natural, as well as the one that you already had, that's just weird. That is too defensive. And yeah, MaSa is starting to get that bit of a noose going here, where he's just kind of strangle-holding Vindicta a little bit.
So he is going to try and really play out this mid-game bio, you know, with 3 extra barracks coming down, which means that he will have to either contain him on 3 bases for a very long time, Or
He's
find
going.
an opening. Oh, wow, he's going to go for it. And maybe this is actually that opening. Vindicta not quite strong enough on that north side. Gets broken into the natural. A couple of tanks are here, and the Vikings lab at the very least. And maybe Vindicta will hold, but I don't think he was expecting to be broken like that.
No, I mean, when you're turtling on 3 base on one of the most defensive maps there is, you're like, no way is my opponent going to break me, right? And MaSa was like, hold the phone. But there was so much army over to the left side. MaSa kind of played him a bit like a puppet master there. Now, MaSa, he's not winning this game right here, right now. At least I don't think so, but he is still getting damage done. And Vindicta, he has to break out of this. MaSa's just expanding behind this. And if you told me that MaSa had been practicing a lot and he didn't just retire, I'd believe you.
That's the trick about this guy, though. Fear Dragon would even say that it's better for him not to be practicing, and he puts so much weight on his shoulders just by his own expectations. So to have this guy go part-time or retire, it's just like, yeah, okay, so you're going to play like even better, right? That seems to be what happens. And he's playing a very good game, very strong decisions right now. There's a big old drop between the third and the fourth. Not actually that many units, I will say. That was a lot more medevacs than it was a lot of bio. So this will be cleaned up, but MaSa is looking for a couple more trades to open up an opportunity to stop that fourth base. And there he goes in with some Marines Marauders grabbing 3 tanks before the Planetary's done. The Thors will come over to help out, but more damage is found by MaSa.
Yeah, MaSa's kind of tearing him apart right now. The SCV count for Vindicta has dropped below 60. 22 SCVs dying in the last few engagements here. MaSa still with... She's got units scattered everywhere around Vindicta. And the thing is, Vindicta's been forced to take the 6 o'clock base, but this is so gnarly. Like, it's such a bad base to want to defend because you kind of can get attacked from that high ground with siege tanks, which is not what you want to be doing. And MaSa is just dropping and having a good time.
And MaSa is also following up like one should.
Ooh.
Oh, finally Vindicta gets something on this side of the map. Clearly MaSa was hoping to truly contain him. Nothing coming across because that's not a planetary. So a couple of SCVs do get barbecued, and it's a reminder that MaSa is not going to be totally untouched, but he still is on a strong economy. And he still is transferring over into the starports, which they wanted to get into. That's the real kill move. If you try and just continue to butt your head against the mech wall with bio, they can start to really take better trades, right? You get that Viking spirit, you get your own Liberators, it can really change up. But once again, Vindicta a little bit lacking on this north side, brings the Hellenes over, and that will stall this out. But MaSa's not at all done. He's going to continue expanding, continue maxing out, continue dropping, and Vindicta's just not in the right place at the right time.
This is a bit ambitious though, going for that. I mean, he does get off the tank and he backs out. I think that was the correct move, backing out when he did, because fighting a PF like that, it can get a little bit dicey. But MaSa, like, yeah, this continual stranglehold that he's got going. I love the fact that Vindicta's still going for Hellions though, like these Hellion run bys, because he's not going to be able to spend everything that he can on like all the gas. I mean, so trying to utilize those Hellions in any way, shape, or form, it's good because if one run by gets done, like if one run by gets through, it's going to deal a lot of damage. This is what I talked about, by the way, with that high ground vision.
The single tank providing such an annoyance. Yeah, I'm glad the Hellion run-bys are being attempted. I don't think you can just sit back here and do nothing, but they're going to be difficult to work out. Maybe the Liberators being used as harassment would be a bit better, because so far their defensive uses has not been great. Once again, MaSa doing a drop, this time very effectively into the main base, grabs the tank, is on top of production. It's going to force Vindicta to move a lot of army back, and MaSa's also going to be grabbing at least one of the upgrades, if not both. Maybe he'll lose the units, but these are cheaper units. He can do this.
Yeah, he certainly can. That upgrade is just finishing in time, so that is very fortunate for Vindicta. But meanwhile, MaSa's not slowing down. Now he's attacking this PF that just got secured. And how many workers have died this game? It must be close to 60 or something.
It's getting there. 63, actually, so it just went over 60. The planetary falling is actually just the sign of a mech player falling, to be honest. They needed that fourth base. They needed that little bit of protection because Vindicta, I think, once went over 150 supply, and then that was, it was just MaSa cutting them down every single time. And I think Vindicta knows it as well. MaSa's got this game one in the bag. Mech did not work out.
It did not work out, and I'm very impressed with MaSa. Like, he looked very quick. He didn't look slow at all. And he was just throwing everything. It's a nice little Hellion run by. But he's actually dealt with all these Hellions so damn well. Like, how many Hellions have also died this game? Because I think Vindicta's tried so hard. How many is that? 35 Hellions? Freaking hell.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, half of those were in the harassment attempts, which meant that they also weren't helping to defend some of those busts into the main choke. So they really not the greatest use of Hellions. Vindicta is going to stick this out because Mech does have that possibility of frustrating your opponent, and they continue delving in a bit too deep. But since MaSa is on now 6 bases, and he still has the potential of going into his own Viking Liberator, there's multiple ways that MaSa can actually kill Vindicta. He's playing Vindicta is just hoping for him.
He certainly is. He certainly is. I love it when you have upgraded bio and you're against a mech player, and then all the SCVs have 0 armor. And so you're just absolutely shredding those. And yeah, like even fights like this is just good for MaSa. And I think these 2 Marauders are actually going to win against this Viking as well. And now he gets to sit on that high ground. And being Vindicta, he's just getting murdered this game, honestly.
Mm-hmm. I would say it's probably time to just cut your losses and try and shake off the first game, but Vindicta's not ready. Maybe he's going to take this time to at least try and think things out. I don't know how much he thinks he can actually bring this back. Mech has done some pretty sick comebacks, but I think it just against worse players. Clearly, MaSa is playing well, and that attack finally sealed it. MaSa takes game 1.
Yeah, MaSa played really good. Like, I'm very impressed with MaSa. I mean, Vindicta held on like a trooper, but MaSa, he brought, I don't want to say it's a super new build, but it's a very in-meta build right now. He did pretty damn well with it early on. It's not as if he got a super crazy lead from it, but yeah, he just lent on his opponent, and once he realized it was mech, didn't worry, didn't panic, was just like, oh, you're going mech? Okay, welcome to my world. This is and just absolutely just threw everything at Vindicta, and Vindicta, he just sat there and just got beat for a good 10 minutes.
Exactly, yeah. If it was only the first break and then everything else went swimmingly, Vindicta's not too upset over it, but it was the first break that actually kind of, you know, put the note on it. It was like, yep, this could be what is going to happen over and over and over again. And that is what happened. He kept on getting broken when you're not supposed to. You're supposed to be so scary that the bio player's like, no, I'm not touching that. Like, forget that. And they do the Viking thing. They try to out-expand you. But MaSa was actually able to correctly identify on a defensive map against a mech player when to engage. And that is, it's not just an incredible skill to have. It also is a real throwback from me to a lot of the like Heart of the Swarm TVTs. I feel so much of Legacy of the Void has been just like, oh, mech, okay, go right into starports. But actually like identifying like when to take engagements and surrounds and concaves and big drops. That's the exciting type of bio versus mech.
Yeah, definitely. I will always remember a game of mine that I had against MMA, and this is the one time that I actually beat MMA, and he went mech, and I think it's because it was cross-serve for him, but I dropped all over his tanks, and I felt so good about it. But very often, like, those games are totally all about tempo, because if MaSa's attacks didn't work out, and all of a sudden, you know, you're on 8 barracks, 2 starports, but you haven't really got anything that can really stand toe-to-toe with that mech army, the mech player just runs across the map and kills you. So it definitely requires a lot of foresight and just playing things correctly and knowing you can actually get away with that kind of pressure. Spawning over in the top right-hand side of Oxide as our blue Terran, it is MaSa.
In the bottom left is the red Terran for Team Alpha X. He is Vindicta.
Do you know if Vindicta did gas first the previous game as well?
I believe so. Well, he factory expanded with a 2 Reaper opener, right? So pretty sure for a gas first.
There's the 2 variations of the double gas though now. Like for a long time, it was gas, racks, then gas, and this is a really early SCV scout again. I think he's just going to check for proxies and then head back home, or he's just scouting super damn early. Either way, yeah, it's kind of old now. Like it's out. don't want to say super outdated, but ever since that King of Battles tournament where all the Korean Terrans did really well, they kind of came out with this build, the Barracks Gas variation, which just turned out to be better in every single way. And if you do scout at the time that MaSa did, you can also make sure that you're not going to die against anything, which is super duper cool, actually. So I'm just wondering, again, this is what I talked about earlier, where certain trends can just arrive later in NA for whatever reason, or I don't know if they're looking for new builds to go by or whether they're just happy doing their builds. But yeah, it's interesting to see that MaSa, despite being the one that's retired, he's the one that's going for more up-to-date builds than Vindicta.
Yeah, I don't want to talk too much on this because I'm not in the professional circle talking in their discords, but I have talked to a couple of like semi-pros, I suppose you would say, of North America. It's always hard because North America has so many people not full time. But anyways, the guys you don't necessarily see in DreamHack, but are still like contenders in the qualifiers. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it can be kind of interesting listening in on their conversations because sometimes it kind of feels like a little bit like watching someone kind of walk in circles, like not necessarily the blind leading the blind. I think that's a bit too mean, but like just like you listen and you're like, oh well, I saw this happen in the Korean one, and someone would be like, no, that can't be what happened. I'm like, I'm pretty sure that's what happened. I'm pretty sure that's how Gumiho defended. And they'll be like, well, I've tried that, it didn't work. And you look at him and you're like, is it because you didn't do it well enough? But that would be very rude to say, so I didn't say that. But sometimes I do think that it's not necessarily the most studying being done of the other regions. Sometimes it is just like practicing against each other, right? And doing the same thing over and over again, but trying to tighten up the same thing. Yeah. I'm not sure.
This build by Vindicta, like he's also gone about this in his own way. So it's going to be a lot of Reapers, 5 Reapers, 3 Hellions, and probably lined up with a Medevac. But again, he's done this in his own sort of fashion here, which I'm not sure it's the most efficient. Like, I'm definitely a little bit confused because I do know that Vindicta is a good player. Like, I've seen him mechanically, and he's very sound. But okay. Yeah, I'm just confused on the job. Like,
well,
like this little squad could be hitting earlier with more, and just be better.
Yeah, I mean that's also something that that we're saying MaSa does, where he just like sees something and tries to copy it, but he didn't really like put a ton of time perfecting it. And that might be what's happening here, but perhaps the bit later of a timing might work out in a weird way as the Medevac's forced to unload. It does fully unload. Oh, a nice drag with the Hellion on top of the Marines. The Reapers, are they actually try and bust up this main ramp against a Cyclone? It'd be a battle that they could win if everything went perfectly, but yeah, not worth attempting. They're just gonna skedaddle.
Okay, that when like the Hellion drag was really good actually. I thought there was going to be some re-target fire by MaSa, but no, just the Hellion just drove in, suicide bombed, and it was great for Vindicta. All things said and done, MaSa's still ahead in workers, which that's when you can be like, aha, was this build necessarily the best of Vindicta? I mean, I'm not sure. I do still like the situation for MaSa, I do believe. He has to be careful, though. This Medevac has been super ballsy, but, just waste a lock on there. That was great.
MaSa likes his control, man. He has lost 5 SCVs as the Reapers go for a backstab. You forget about me? You forget about the Reapers? They're going to get 8, 9, maybe 10 SCVs. They're going to try and escape back to the Medevac, back to Marines, so it's going to be more than 10 SCVs. As it also looks like, Vindicta grabs MaSa's Medevac. Suddenly things are turning around in a really big way.
Yeah, like a minute ago, I wasn't liking this at all, but wow, Vindicta. That was some high-tempo play, and it wasn't just about the first wave, it was about the second one as well. And I was surprised that MaSa flew across the map like he did when he didn't kill that entire army. It was still obviously available. I'll take back a lot of what I said. Vindicta played that game pretty damn well. And guys, we're going to head to a short break. Then we'll find out who wins this last series of the day.
It's the last game of the broadcast, officially. Game number 3 of this TVT is going to be happening on 2,000 atmospheres. MaSa plays a brilliant bio versus mech for the first game. Second game ended pretty abruptly after we were uncertain about how Vindicta was going to play this one out. Ends up backstabbing in a big way and defending very well against a drop as well. So that was more of the high octane back and forth that I was expecting. We'll see what happens here on game 3. In the bottom left, for Team Exxon, he is MaSa.
Oh, sorry. Spawning over in the top right, playing for Team Alpha X, it is Vindicta. I thought I had my camera locked on, and I was like, Niall, AKR Observer. I thought, we're still looking at MaSa?
All right, well, we gotta hang in there for a little while longer. Sleep is getting to old man to Muslim here. That's what you get to be called once you have a kid, by the way. Not even because you're old.
I mean, you called MaSa old and he's 25, so...
I put quotes in that one.
But then a game later you said, past his prime. And I was like, holy crap.
Yes, truly. His bones are breaking as we speak. No. He is once again going for that proxy barracks with the barracks at home. I mean, it worked out so well in the first game, that is to say that it gave him a little bit of a control over the game, and then he played the rest out quite well. So I'll see if he can get any more done here. It's farther away than last game, isn't it? Or the first game.
It is, but it's also where Maru put it pretty much exactly. So,
yeah.
So yeah, I do like this actually quite a bit. The Reaper, so the first one pops out a lot earlier than that one, obviously, but they do kind of hit the Expo around the same time, which is interesting. And okay, so one of the reasons that the gas first variant of Vindicta's build isn't as common anymore is you get your Reaper, you get your 2 Reapers out slower. Yeah, you get the first Reaper or first Hellion out a little bit faster, but a lot of these pressure builds and tempo builds can come down to just having the 2 Reapers out as quickly as possible. It sounds weird. Getting to 3 units, you get it much faster with the Rax gas variation. Just makes you safer.
Okay. All right, yeah. Perhaps Vindicta will have to be updated, but I mean, it's when we're kind of in line with us talking about the way that these North American players kind of catch up, but they certainly have their own flair, their own way of responding to things, and Vindicta is proxying a starport. Hopefully he holds on to this little pressure. Yeah, definitely.
Nice nades. Nice nades. Mm-hmm. They definitely kept the Reapers safe, and MaSa moves up that ramp, and he's like, oh, okay, it's this. I know what I'm up against. He's going to go for the bunker block again. And Vindicta, he's the one. Okay, this build, Zombie Grub, that he's doing with the proxy starport, this is from a super long time ago. This particular... Wait, with a medevac? Okay, he's wild.
Yeah, I think I see where you were going with it, right? And I was like prepared, but I was also thinking that he might be trying to hit even faster and harder with kind of a similar idea as last game. And it seems like, well, yeah, that's the one he's going for. So MaSa knows that the lack of command center here is telling that there is a starport. I mean, technically there could be a high ground command center, I suppose, but just gonna be careful. Just gotta be prepared for whatever a starport could produce, and in proxy as well, which is what obviously is. Maybe if he tracks the army, MaSa's Reapers are just gonna go back home. Looks like be safe with a bunker building. There's the Liberator now coming.
I'm actually very surprised that Vindicta showed his third Hellion there to attack the bunker, because that just, to me, that's just like, okay, this is definitely something a bit weird. You never go for more than 2 Hellions. And here we do see that he is going to elevate into the main. MaSa is more than ready for this.
Yeah, exactly. That's a few too many units. If they were split, you know, half in the main, half in the natural, that's where maybe you can get the snowball going. But altogether, I'm not sure it's going to work. Vindicta, though, I mean, kind of has to force the issue. He needs to do damage. His command center is so much later, and he is going to just completely deny the natural mining. So that is, I mean, it's actually pretty good. It's lasting a long time.
Yeah, it definitely is. And he's getting a few SV kills here that were a bit misrallied by MaSa. He has the option to pick up a lot of it and get out of there, which he's actually going to pick up, get into the main base. Does drop on a few Marines that buy time. But yeah, again, this is an army that can get away. At least it could get away now the Vikings out.
I think he wanted to do a really nice grenade Hellion lineup there. Oh my goodness. Oh, how did that Viking not shoot? Okay.
I think... Okay, I looked at MaSa's face again, and he was definitely like, oh, because I think he thought it was going to shoot too.
Oh, man. It's a little too soon of a pullback. Liberator didn't actually have anything to really kill in the natural because the SCVs had still been pulled, but it will be coming back later. And then Vindicta, this time, by the looks of it, is actually going to go into Banshees, right? He still has that starport in proxy, so no Raven production. A little bit of a backstab again. Couple of SCVs and continued denied mining on the natural. I mean, these are units that MaSa doesn't want to be dealing with anymore. He should have cleaned this up ages ago if he had his way, but only now are they finally finished.
You can definitely tell that MaSa isn't comfortable with the amount of aggression that Vindicta's throwing at him. And it's all very weird aggression, so I do like the fact that Vindicta is playing so weird, because, yeah, if you're playing against a guy that's been out of it for a little bit, maybe he isn't going to be super attuned to all of this, but definitely Wild West.
I don't know what quite to expect here from either player, and just from the entire North American scene, I suppose. But it's going well for Vindicta in Game 3, and he already lost a series against someone that I think you would have expected to win against, Trigger. Whereas MaSa could just be like, oh, I lost against Scarlet. You know, okay, that's my most difficult matchup out of the way. This would, I think, mean a lot more to Vindicta to take down a guy like MaSa, who is clearly playing in good form, as the first game indicated, but is being tripped up a lot by Game 3. As the Banshee now appears, no scan in the natural, not enough Marines anyways. That's going to be more lost mining time.
Yeah, it certainly is. He has kind of given away that he is going for Banshees, and the starport is in that bottom right location. Which MaSa does now find, and he will see, oh, there's another Banshee popping out of here. I kind of like the setup for MaSa in that he does look like he's pretty decently prepared for anything that can be thrown at him. That being said, Vindicta's got a very decent tank count with this, but that Banshee, that second one didn't get anything done.
Yeah, now the Banshees don't look so smart.
Oh, what's happening in the main base?
Oh, okay, second Banshee was at least a distraction. Medevac back into the main is going to force the SCVs off once again. They're going to go after Stim, which by the looks of it actually might go down. There's just not enough to actually kill these Marines. It does get taken out as it gets like 20, 30 second deny in the Stim timing. And while the drop does get cleaned up entirely, Medevac also died. I mean, these are... It's more than just the SCV loss in the bottom left, right? Like Stim being denied, a lot of lost SCV mining, and hopefully Vindicta just feels more and more confident the more this happens. And actually looking at the income, it did jump up a lot for Vindicta.
Oh yeah, definitely. He's landing himself in a position where he's not the one being attacked, which definitely looks like he feels way more comfortable with that type of game, right?
He did, yeah. I'm a little surprised that Vindicta is going back again, but... I mean, we don't really know what he was going to go for last game, do we?
That is true. That is true.
Maybe he just likes mech right now.
Yeah, mech's so hot right now, Zombie Grub, and but yeah, considering his style, that like the stuff that's been giving him a lot of luck is when he's just being aggressive, and mech, unless he does something super damn well. Oh, this is ambitious. Ambitious is my word of the day besides gnarly, honestly.
It is such a nice way to say that was kind of a silly, risky move. Yeah, ambitious.
A beautiful way of saying it, I have to say. Like, this is, I guess he's picking off quite a few Vikings here, and he actually pick off Vikings that leave from the starport here, and Vindicta, all his Vikings are actually getting picked off. Maybe he can keep that one alive. That Liberator coming in to try his damn hardest. Isn't gonna happen though.
But it's one Viking, so the Liberator's like, wait a second, I was gonna siege up, kill a couple of SCVs, get rid of maybe like 2 tanks, not just the one. But that was kind of a pretty funny fight, I would say. I didn't expect so early on to be talking about the last few Viking shots. But that is now done, and now Vindicta has that air control, and he will push this pushback.
This is okay. This is more how MaSa likes to play. Has he spotted that it is indeed mech? He does kind of see 2 factories right there, so I think that's definitely going to give it away. And now, given that he has put the pressure back on Vindicta and the game's kind of evened out somewhat, I think it's starting to tilt back in MaSa's favor a little.
Yeah, it's actually, I mean, it's hard to say. I usually defer to your expertise, but I do think that MaSa is going to be missing a mid game that was, started off okay. It was awkward in the first game because he didn't realize it was mech, so the actual composition wasn't quite there, but the actual amount of units and the upgrades were, so he could pull the trigger when he wanted to. Now, when you see, I mean, for me, when I see an even supply and stims not done, I'm like, all right, so the mech player gets to kind of jump past the scary point where they only have 4 tanks or they only have 10 tanks. And then when they get to like 15 tanks, I don't really feel scared for the mech player anymore, But maybe MaSa can prove wrong.
Yeah, maybe. We'll see how this goes. Okay, one thing I will say, whenever you have a Terran that's making this amount of sensor towers, so there's already 2 on these 2 bases, that just shows to me that he's really scared about moving out, because ideally he wants to take that top left base that MaSa's already set out, right, as his 4th. So what does that initial sensor tower at your natural sort out? It just shows to me a lot of indecisiveness for Vindicta, or at least a bit of, like, okay, what do I do now? Like, do I move out very slowly? To me, it shows that he wants to bring the tempo down, as opposed to playing to his strength, where it just seems like he's quite a fast player.
That's a good point. He is playing about as scared as a mech player can. I mean, mech is going to be slower. It's going to be more defensive, but there are some subtle things to say that even more so than you want, they are going to turtle. They're going to be super defensive. And if MaSa can also kind of pick up on it, then it might actually influence his decisions. So far, continuing to go for that bio, no quick transport over into the starports. His 1 medevac drop might be all that he gets, since there's now a missile turret ring that is now covering the very right side of Vindicta's main base. I'm not sure if MaSa will find any other opportunities to drop, because Vindicta has also covered his tank lines with either missile turrets or Vikings.
Yeah, I think Vindicta's actually starting to take some really good trades here. And this Viking count, this is the kind of count that you really, really want. He also did some counterattack damage. I don't even know where. I think it was on the far left somewhere. And MaSa, he wants to be aggressive. He wants to be in the face of Vindicta, but he's weathered the storm. It's now 15 tanks, 11 Vikings, and 81 SCVs for the young Terran player. And even though he's playing a bit scared, he's absolutely solidified a good position in this game. And now we get to see what his mech's actually made of.
I think this is going to be a great game for Vindicta. This is exactly the point where I'm looking at the bio player and I'm like, so starports? I don't know if he can actually bust the guy. He could hope that Vindicta charges recklessly into the middle of the map and hopefully, a good concave and actually take some battles there. But this does feel like a game where Vindicta can actually get to max supply and then actually feel confident moving out and engaging, which he never got to do on Romanticide. Even still has the Viking superiority, finds the medevacs as they unload, takes 2 out immediately. And while it might lose a Viking for you just feel so much safer. You feel so comfy. You're totally on top of all of MaSa's tricks.
Yeah, definitely. this Liberator, despite running past the medevacs, the watchtower, still gets to MaSa's base and deals some annoying damage. Vindicta has been very persistent about all the harass that he's been able to put on.
I really like that he uses Liberator aggressively, too. Because I think that was one thing in the first game where I think he had, like, I'm guessing here, but I feel like he made, like, 5 Liberators, and they all ended up trying to be defensive when they all just got taken out pretty quickly. Liberator harassment might have been a better choice. Second Liberator there doesn't really help my point and didn't do too much, but I like the idea.
It's also about knowing when to cut your losses with the harass, though. Like, having those extra Liberators and really confirming air control, because that Viking count that he once had, it's not really been going up anymore. And if MaSa was going full air, he could have definitely battled it back, but he's just going for the muscle approach, is MaSa. I'm not sure about this one for him, because my personal games when I've tried this against Mega Zombie Grove have not ended well for me.
They usually don't look that pretty unless you can, have that 20 supply advantage in the mid game and take the appropriate engagements. Being even with mech is not great. Being down in supply against mech obviously is not great. And being only on that bio, if you had a tech advantage, would be a different story. But MaSa does not. And even with the mass bio, which is like, technically max versus max, some things can happen. MaSa also just was like late to his upgrades. He's clearly faltering in a way that he really wasn't in the first game.
Yeah, Vindicta has weathered the storm. He's even got Widow Mines under these tanks here, so engaging is very difficult. MaSa's bleeding out a lot of units, and while Bio does trade kind of inefficiently against mech, this is just very unnecessary.
Yeah, just clearly not having his units far enough back in AI, just focusing on other things, such as this double drop, trying to kill some tanks, certainly wasn't worth it. I think it killed 2 tanks, and then everything died in it. Doesn't even really open up the left, and that's still a good number of units. Maybe MaSa can push past this specific line, but there's more. There's so much more behind this.
Yeah, I think Vindicta's got a grip on things this game. Like, he hasn't lost control of the game. I think MaSa just... I'm not really sure. It felt like it worked the first game pretty damn well, but this time it's very much a tempo thing, and like you can't bust that. You can't bust that or trade it efficiently against. He sees it all, and yeah, Vindicta. I hope he doesn't pull kind of a milky cow situation where it's like, okay, when do I kill my opponent? Because this is as ahead as he's ever going to be. He shouldn't let MaSa try and bully him around.
That is the one thing, is that Vindicta can't see the entire map, so he's still playing pretty safe. He doesn't want to underestimate MaSa's macro, which he might have done in the first game, but you're right, that was, as you said it, the most ahead Vindicta was going to be. Ahead by about 70 supply when you were talking. Now it's already been bridged a little bit. MaSa is still trying to out-multitask his opponent, but is missing the numbers to really do so. And I think I saw him add, the 2 starports. He has to make the decision now, like full on into the starports and give up on the bio, or he's never gonna go to starports. Actually, he'll just die doing bio.
I got to see the end of Vindicta against Trigger. Okay, this is a nice little attack by MaSa. Maybe he can actually get this base. He can at least stop the fusion core upgrade for the Liberators, which is a big deal. But Vindicta is playing the late game with TVP, very similar to the Milky Cow stuff with the nukes and what have you going on. But yeah, this game, like, it's not going to get any, like, super better for the mech. Like, MaSa's already catching up and he's expanding more, and Vindicta's slowly pushing out and taking more bases and what have you. He'd have so much fortune just moving across the map, and he could A-move MaSa. He has been able to do it for a long time. Yeah, but every second that he doesn't do it, it means that MaSa gains a little bit more supply, and then A-moving would be a foolish thing to do. But that's definitely not what Vindicta's problem is. He's actually not bringing enough to the front lines. This little push here was, it's kind of leapfrogging about 1/8 of his army, I want to say. Because even after losing the tanks there and being pushed back, he barely dips down in supply. So Vindicta... I mean, he might feel shy. That engagement actually might have scared him a little bit, but I think it is just because he has so many of his units spread around. If he consolidated a little bit and decided to go for it, he actually might be able to push through, but
That's not his choice. He's still defending. MaSa still has time to recuperate, get to maxed out, and he is getting closer than he has been in the last 5 minutes.
Yeah, definitely. This game's not super over anymore, whereas I felt it was not too long ago. Things that MaSa could aim for right now, just more SCVs, more orbitals, because his economy is pretty bad still. These run-bys by Vindicta are cool. You know, Vindicta kind of reminds me of a Forzane, like Spoon Terraning almost. Oh wow, some of these fights have been really bad for Vindicta. Oh my goodness, is it happening?
That's a pretty good fight. There was no buffer there, so a beautiful concave from MaSa with no Hellbats to kind of tank the shots or stop the army from engaging on top of the tanks. Meant that MaSa, once again, just has that eagle eye for openings. He didn't have a very good supply, not as much as that first game, so it might not lead to a victory, but that was a fight to finally instill some confidence into MaSa. If he could actually get this planetary, that would really help. But the building armor is done, and the bio is not enough. Even with the last SCV mining, it is good enough. Planetary will hold.
Certainly will. MaSa, he took a lot of a beating as well, finding that PF. It definitely wasn't the most fair trade going on there, and that Viking tickled away a lot of those medevacs. But he's definitely been reset as well. And it's not as if he's super rich. He's on 61 SCVs against 74. Vindicta's always done a good job of getting SCVs out and about, by the way. The Romanticide game as well, even though he took 60 SCVs of damage, he was still on 70, 80. So he definitely builds SCVs damn good. MaSa is now the one building SCVs, so I'm glad that he's kind of realized, hey, actually I can't really afford all of this. This is getting a bit dicey here.
No, it's when you do an attack like that and you kind of feel like, oh, I'm doing it, and then you look back at home and you're like, oh, I have no minerals, that you feel bad and you realize that you need so much more as far as the economy goes. So MaSa is going to try and take another base. Vindicta's actually Vindicta's throwing down info scans to see exactly what's going on while his Hellions rip apart this SCV line. It looks like MaSa found a little bit of an opening at a third that, didn't really have to be protected. He's got some gas going, but it's more about these planetaries. That's where Vindicta's mining is, and that's something that MaSa still cannot crack.
No, definitely not. And that Hellion run by there, 23 SCVs falling. MaSa's just running into defense. And the small run-bys that are happening, the little Liberator attacks, they're dealing so much damage. MaSa, I'm still so surprised that Vindicta hasn't just kind of said, hey, I'm going to go kill you. I don't know whether that's because I'm exhausted or whether it's you've been 200 supply against 130 2 or 3 times in this game now. You can kill MaSa. You really can.
I guess every time he's kind of pushed out, he's just, he's been beaten back. And the problem that I already pointed out was that he's not really moving out with all of his army. Putting these 2 tanks forward with your Viking Liberators is not actually all your army. So if MaSa does take a trade against this, that's not actually indicative of how well MaSa's doing. That's just you not bringing your entire army. So once again, Vindicta gets broken when he kind of tries to poke out a little bit. But also, yet again, the planetary will hold. MaSa's going to need his entire army to take down a planetary being mass repaired with building armor.
Yeah, MaSa, he was kind of you saw the rest of his army, he left that little scrabble behind. Now he's getting pushed on the far left side. This base isn't really that pivotal anymore. It's been kind of mined out, at least 50% of it has. MaSa is using this time to get between the army, though. But the tank line's so deep from Vindicta that he's still not trading too badly against any of this. He's got tanks absolutely everywhere.
Yeah, he does. Because, again, he just leaves them at home, which is backfired on some of the quote-unquote main engagements, but does keep him just enough protected around his bases that they haven't fallen. And with that, it looks like the steam is just all gone. MaSa can't break Vindicta, who gets the mech victory to close out the series.